Alrighty, now with end of financial year sales now in full swing, many families are eyeing off a new car. But with the rush to clear stock, it's really hard to tell if you're truly bagging a bargain or signing up for hidden headaches. It's a huge
Yep.
decision for the household budget. So, how can you navigate end of financial year sales and ensure you're getting a reliable car without any nasty surprises? Well, joining us to hopefully share some practical tips on this is Peter Willis, who's the director of buying at digital used car dealership Carma. G'day, Peter. Welcome to the Savings Tip Jar.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Dom. Really good to be here and talk about something that's pretty important for every family and certainly every consumer across Australia, certainly right now.
Yeah, absolutely. A car's probably, the second biggest purchase someone will ever make, and you want to make sure that you're doing it right. But before we get into all that good stuff, do you have a savings tip for us, Peter?
Yeah, I guess quickly just touching on myself, my background is automotive and I've spent the better part of 3 decades doing this. So I have seen plenty of interesting things and tips and things across, this time of year and more generally as well. So a really interesting, savings tip I've got, is tyre pressures. It's probably one that not a lot of people would think about, but not only does getting your tyre pressures right minimise some uneven wear and maybe some tyre wear that might wear your tyres a little quicker, it also reduces the rolling resistance, hence probably increasing some of your fuel consumption as well. So, certainly you should do that. Check it a bit like your bank account. Do it often and make sure that it's, air is free. And certainly one of those things that you could do, quite often just to make sure that you're not wearing your tyres out quickly and causing yourself undue fuel usage.
Yeah, great tip, Peter. Definitely a unique one.
Very
We haven't
interesting,
heard on this podcast before. I actually just the other week was thinking, you know what? I think my tires are looking pretty flat on our SUV, which chews up a lot of petrol as it is.
Yeah.
And at the petrol station, check the pressure. And I think it's supposed to be, the pressure on this tire is supposed to be like 34 or something. It was way down like 19. I was like, oh my God, how long have I been driving on really flat tires? How much petrol have I burned through? I wish, I'd heard that tip from you, months ago, because I think I've been driving on really flat tires, which is also a safety issue too.
Many good uses.
Yeah, for sure. Now, these end of financial year sales, I'm seeing them everywhere at the moment in the shops, in the dealerships. But I often wonder, is there a reason why these discounts are happening? Is the stock bad compared to the new stock coming in? Is it are there hidden compromises essentially? When you're picking up a car that's being pushed out for a low price at the end of the year.
Yeah, look, it's very important, to take a bit of time to actually look and really understand what's sort of happening. Perfect sort of analogy. You're looking at all this. There's big price drops. There's huge incentives on things. There's flexible rates. There's free servicing. There's a load of things that have been throwing out there, and understanding what's actually happening. Dealerships are looking at clearing older models. They're looking at maybe getting some cash back through the business. At the end of the year, there's some incentives there from manufacturers. So there is some genuine savings to be had. But ultimately understanding and sort of digging into, what that looks like. Those older models, the 24 plate car potentially could have some features and things that are different to the current model. So less features than those models coming in. And so that offset, is probably quite a lot that people aren't taking into account. As well as generally you find with those sort of cars that have been sitting around, there might be some odd colour combinations, some odd colours that might be a little bit undesirable to start with, or even just to make and a variant that is a bit slow to sell. That will have a knock-on effect when you go to sell at the other end as well. So it's something you should really consider. So taking a bit more time to really understand what you're sort of seeing there and why those discounts are applied.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for those people who are looking to potentially nab a bargain, they don't mind a lime green Ford Fiesta. And for those heading to the dealership, what are some sales tactics that a lot of the dealers use, and what should shoppers be wary of?
Yeah, look, again, there's many, many different tactics over the years, and there's a lot of regulation there, and there's things that, people have got to be careful about what they do. But the pressure tactics can be everything from, there's new buyers on the way, or there's someone actually on the way in to buy this car if you don't make a decision quite, right now. There's an urgency at this time of year. There's those low repayments that I mentioned that often had, those hidden costs, and, everyone wants to talk about the things that are, that are shiny and that are great at this time of year, and often not giving you the full picture. Again, you need to just understand and know that product. If it is that lime green Fiesta that you've gone, I've had my eye on one of these and someone's got one at a great rate, that's perfect. But actually understanding that you knew what that car was worth at the pre-discounted price, and that discount is actually in line with what it previously was. So actually, comparing that against the market. If you're buying from one seller, maybe do a little spot check with another seller that sells a competitive, that sells the same car, and just make sure that price is, the best one you're getting. And I guess probably the last point is really then just understanding what that full cost is. If there's other costs involved there, I've seen everything now from, an RMS service fee being tacked on at the end, actually understanding the picture of what you're looking at, and that at the end of the day, the full value of the cost of that car when you're putting your money down.
Now, Peter, obviously you work for a used car online dealership. Now, when it comes to used cars, obviously you can be getting much better value than buying a new car, in that you're lessening the depreciation cost. But then the risk is that that car might have a bit of a dodgy history. There might be some faults with it. So I guess my question to you is, what are some of the key checks that every buyer must do to ensure they're not being lumped with a lemon?
Yeah, there's some simple checks that every buyer should do. One of the things that I always talk about is service history. Service history tells the story of the car. You can really tell the life it's lived, how it's been looked after, the cost that people have put back into that car, and whether they've really taken enough care of it to make sure that it's going to be a quality product for you for a period to come. That's a foregone conclusion. You should always do that. You should also do, those online checks, your PPSR, and ensuring there's no finance on it. There are reputable providers out there, reputable names, brands that you can trust. Carma as a business, we are transparent and actually really, putting the buyer in charge of their purchase, and recently pairing with NRMA, another trusted brand in the business. So pairing with those trusted brands out there really gives you an opportunity to be confident, and be backed by the support of the networks that are going to make sure that the product is a good product for you, moving forward. There is a lot to think about. When you go out to buy a car, as I said at the start, it could be something that's quite fun, through to near bordering on terrifying for people. So taking some consideration with those points, and really making sure we're dealing with reputable providers, is a key to having a great experience, and then also having a great product for a period to come.
Yeah, for sure, Peter. Now, just broadly, are there any sort of car and car makes and models that are standing out to you as a bit of a good deal at this end of financial year?
Look, it does come down to personal preference, I really believe, and there's always going to be something that spikes your interest. Everyone's got their car they've had an eye on, whether it's it's got a great look about it, or it's got all the features and inclusions that you're really looking for. Cars that, if you think about Australia as a broad market, there is so much choice, and I think that goes with that so much choice is it gives you the opportunity to really be in control of your purchase, rather than sort of being in a situation where you're not sure what you compare to. There is so much comparison. You think back to a few years ago, Toyota, Mazda, Ford, and Holden were the big brands in Australia. There's more now. It is really hard to pin on where the best value is, but there are some dealers, when you're thinking new cars, that have got some stock and some product which we haven't seen for many years. So, that's a great thing for consumers, which means there are products out there for them to be able to go into a dealership and negotiate and get a good deal. So I think the time is now. Great choice and great value out there for many people, provided you have that checklist to make sure you're doing everything you can to get yourself the best deal.
Yeah, some great tips there, Peter. Hey, we really appreciate your time on the Savings Tip Jar podcast. And, myself, I'm considering getting a different car at some point in the near future, so I might have to check out Carma for myself. Thanks so much, Peter. Cheers. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, guys. Great to chat.
Thanks, Peter.
Cheers.